All right, welcome. And in today's video, what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at trading for a living. Like, how much money do you need, and how do you start approaching this concept? Now, for everybody, it's going to be a little bit different in the same way that people like to eat different foods. So if you have different capital size, you have different knowledge, things you like to do, the amount of time you have, it's going to be a bit different. So this is what we're going to do is we're going to cover this in a step-by-step process so you could kind of concoction and create your own general plan or idea of how much you need in order to trade for a living. Now, there's a lot more articles, tips, insights, and things to learn on our website. So definitely check that out on tradersfly.com. And you can, of course, get a lot of great courses and more knowledge and insight there on the website. All right, so I'm going to break this down into some steps. So first step is going to be taking a look at your living expenses or determining the cost of your lifestyle. So for everybody, their lifestyle is going to be a little bit different. You might have a lifestyle where it costs you $2,000 a month to live, or another person might have a $50,000 a month lifestyle. You could be a $15,000 a month lifestyle. It's going to vary because you might have no kids, and maybe living with a roommate, and it might be a lot cheaper for you. You might be living in another country where the cost of living is also cheaper. On the other hand, you might have 10 kids where now it becomes more expensive. So everybody's lifestyle is going to be quite a bit different. So let's say if we are starting to break things down, you might say, okay, well, as for your lifestyle, if you've got a maybe a $5,000 lifestyle a month, it could be a $10,000 lifestyle a month. It could be a $20,000 lifestyle a month. So first step is determine the cost of this lifestyle. Now, keep in mind, you also may want to budget things for the future as we go through this exercise, like budgeting in terms of medical expenses or unexpected costs. So keep that in mind. So even though if you might have a $5,000 a month lifestyle, it may actually be more looking at, let's say, a $7,000 a month income goal or projection. So this could be kind of the first step. As we look to kind of step number 2 is how much risk capital do you have to use? That's the next big question, because risk capital is really the money that you have to go ahead and work. It's kind of like working capital. So how much money do you have to actually put into place? Again, you might have only $20,000 and now your trading and things you can do is going to be a little bit different than maybe somebody with $300,000. So again, will be completely different. So again, what can you do in those cases? Because with a $20,000 account, to try and hit a $7,000 a month is going to be more difficult than trying to hit $7,000 a month with a $300,000 account. So everybody is going to have a different account size, and that will be a bit different depending on what you're trying to hit. So this will be a little bit easier to some level, whereas if you've only got $20,000 and you're trying to hit $7,000 a month, that will be more difficult or harder. And that is just the nature of business, right? You have to make a smaller percentage of return if you had $300,000, or you could take maybe less risky things or less risky shots. All right, let's look at number 3, and that is know your capabilities and what you can make or do. So for everyone, this is going to be a little different, since your capabilities of what can you do. So in terms of, are you a simplified trader, meaning you can only do dividends and stocks? Now all of a sudden you need more cash and capital. If you can actually do other things, then you'll be able to make more money in a percentage basis. So for example, if you're able to trade more options, then you can go ahead and make more on a percentage basis. So looking at our website, we do a lot with options. So things like wheel strategy and iron condors and vertical spreads. So if you're capable of that, because if I do something on, let's just say Meta, or Facebook in this case, and we buy, let's look at 100 shares. Well, the cost of this, let me put it into this account. The cost of this is going to be $30,000. Okay, and if this is all you know, well, you can buy the shares. Well, it's fine, but it's going to cost you more. But on the other hand, if you're able to construct something like a vertical spread, let's do a vertical spread at 45 days or so, I'm actually able to then construct a risk parameter where, hey, I'm looking to risk, let's say $233 to possibly make about $267. So you're risking one to make one. So that's kind of like saying, hey, well, if the stock doubles. So in many cases, the stock won't double, but this is what you're looking for. So if you're looking for 20 contracts, okay, I'm risking about $4,000 to make about $5,000. So what you can see here is that when you're looking at these different strategies and concepts, your knowledge has to be greater in understanding options, but you're able to make more. So that's the trade-off, in the sense that you have to be able to know more to do that. But once you are able to know that, then you're able to use less capital, and that allows you to understand your capabilities. And if you have your capabilities, then that's what you can determine, okay, well, I actually have a bigger skill set. And if you have a bigger skill set, then you can say, well, I'm able to use less capital to kind of hit my target. And that's where you get into kind of step number 4, where you can build and plan out and estimate your earnings potential. Let's just take a basic concept of dealing with Meta and doing just buying shares of stock. Well, this stock is moving around $4 or $5. Well, if you can kind of capture $1 even, let's say, on a day-to-day basis, and you're able to trade about 100 shares, then in this case, you're able to make, well, it moves around $1 or $2, and you can maybe make that. Right now it's moving 4, but let's say you're only able to do about $1 or $2 a day. Well, in that case, you got 100 shares moving $1 or $2 a day, and you're doing that twice a week. Well, it's maybe, $200, $300 a week. That's what you're doing. But you got to have a lot more capital. So how much capital did we say? Well, remember, it's about 30 grand that you're moving around. Now, on the other hand, let's say you've got the knowledge of covered calls. Well, let's go in and buy covered stock now, and I'll show you the analyze on this. And if we look at something like this, what this tells you is if the stock goes up, okay, you make this amount of money. So that's 536. So that's a bit more than just trying to wiggle around the stock and try and capture those little bit of moves here and there. And if it just decays and stands still, you still make $290. So this is at expiration, that line. So my point here is now having a little more knowledge allows you to possibly have or make more money. In the same way that, let's go into selling vertical spreads. Let's take something 17 days out, and we will go, let's sell something like a 15 delta or so. And now I might need less capital than buying stock. But if I do 20 contracts here, okay, I might be risking 8,000, almost 9,000 to possibly make $1,000. So it's about 9% or so in 2-3 weeks, which is pretty good. So again, more knowledge, more possibilities, and allows you to kind of really work through, okay, well, what am I capable of? If you don't know how to do vertical spreads, then you have to kind of stick with stocks. So by doing this exercise, you're able to see, well, how much am I able to make from the strategies I can actually do? If you don't understand these strategies, then you have to do something that you can do. In the same way that if I can't fly a plane or I'm not a pilot, well, obviously I have to do something else that I know. So in this case, it's the same thing. If you don't know this strategy, then don't do it, because then you'll have to do things that you do know. So look at your strategy, look at what you're doing, and what is it that's possible, reasonable, and feasible. And now you've got kind of an idea. And that's a general kind of plan. How often can you do it? Are you doing it every 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks? And then you get into step number 5, is to budget for drawdowns and for weeks and months at a time where things aren't going against you. So even, let's say we've got something like, let's pull up a new layer here. Okay, so even if we've got we're aiming to make $10,000 a month. Okay, that's great. That's our expenses. Our strategy, or the capital we have, is $300,000, and we might just deal with stocks. But let's say our strategy is making us $7,000 a month. Well, the problem with this is that's assuming we hit 7,000 all the time. What if, we make 7,000? Well, I'm just going to do this. Month one, we make 7,000. Month two, we make 9,000. Month three, we lose 3,000. Month four, we lose 5,000. Month five, we make 5,000. So what's happening is we need to take into account the drawdowns here. So this drawdown of losing 3,000 or 5,000. So instead of actually trying to aim for 10,000, we're only making 7,000. We probably need to aim for like 14,000 a month to really get our $10,000, because we have to count for these drawdowns. And this is one last point you have to take into account, along with, taxes and all these other things, commissions and fees. So also things to think about and consider. So my point being here is that all of these factors have to be considered as you go into looking for trading for a living, is to understand, well, what's my expenses? What's coming in? How much capital do I have? And the consistency that you may have. Also, market conditions. Like if you look at the markets, if you're only a bullish investor, well, let's say there is a period of the market for 3-4 months where the market's trending down. Are you going to be able to hold it or sustain it? If you can't trade in multiple market conditions, that's also going to be something you need to think about and consider. So there's other factors, of course, and many more. My goal here was just to give you a little bit of perspective and concepts to think about as you go ahead and look for trading for a living, or look for supplementing that income that you might have. Maybe you have a part-time job or you're almost retired and you've trying to do this for kind of more full-time as supplemental income for retirement. Then these are things to consider and think about as you go into, hey, how much money can you make from what you've got? And think about these things from the strategies you've got to the capital you have to what you're trying to do as far as lifestyle goes. And that'll give you a little bit of a good situation. There's no clear-cut answer because everybody's lifestyle is a little different. Your knowledge in trading is going to be a little different, along with your risk tolerance of trading that you like to put on or put on those trades will also vary from person to person. So thanks for joining me, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care.